Okay, first, so this is my culture box. I'll just kind of show it to you guys from the start. So there are 5 specific things that I've chosen for this. The very first one is just this white eraser. And this is important because I am white. And especially after these readings, I've recognized there's a lot of privilege that comes with being white. And the way that I'm treated automatically is with less suspicion, with a lot more ease in getting the things that I want or need. And that's a huge part of who I am. And the way that I am consistently treated really goes to, you see me and I am quite pale, and so it's very obvious that I am white, and that does affect my position in social groups, as I'm immediately seen as that and seen as less suspicious and have less negative effects for that. The second one is not necessarily good or bad, but it is simply that I am a child of divorce. And so this has really affected my social class, because when my parents got divorced, there were some issues that happened, and I won't go into detail, but it did mean that my mother and I, and then my other siblings, we kind of got into a lower social class, and I actually ended up having to help support us in a lot of ways. And because of that, the way that I was seen was a little bit different, because I constantly worked in high school and throughout my college life, whereas a lot of people were able to go and have fun. And so I was seen as somebody who didn't like to have fun, whereas I just didn't explain to them that it was necessary that I work and I do all these things to make sure that we are okay. I also think that it has influenced the way that people see me, because a lot of people feel willing to come and talk to me about the difficulties they're going through if their parents are going through divorce. And I think that also changes the way that I'm treated by others in a very positive way. The next one is simply, so this is just a quote here. It's from a religious book that I believe in, the Book of Mormon. And this does influence the way that people see and they treat me. Sometimes it's a very positive thing that they see that I am religious and that I do believe and I truly want to improve myself. However, a lot of times I have had some people say pretty mean things, or they don't want to be around me simply because of my beliefs and the way they feel it is affecting them. And so that's one major thing that's an important part of my social identity, my religion. It's a part of who I am. However, the world can either see it in a very positive or negative, or even it's sometimes neutral, but it's usually one or the other of the extremes. The next one is just here. It's a Fitband that I use often when I'm exercising. And this is important to me, and this is, I think, a way that people see me because of my size. Size often just involves people immediately making a snap judgment about who they think somebody is. And whether that's in a positive light for them or negative, it really can affect the way that people are seen. And I've been lucky enough to really enjoy working out and sports. And so I've been able to stay on the smaller side of my weight, and as well stay fit. And I do believe that's the way that people see me and they treat me that way, because it's not a snap judgment of my lifestyle. They just assume that I am working out, and it's less of a negative assumption. The last one that I have here is just, this is an athletic award that I've had. This is extremely important to me because, again, I love sport, but it also shows that with this and the other awards that I've received, that it is very important for me to overachieve. And I think that especially throughout my college career, as I'm only 25, and so really I just have college with me. But the way that I was seen was always as someone who is an overachiever, and the way that people kind of think about me and the abilities that I have, it was always expected that I do really well and that I always needed to do well. And my teachers and my friends have all even mentioned this to me, that the way they treat me is because they know that I have high expectations for myself and the people I work with. And that has influenced the way that I have been treated, usually in a positive, sometimes in a negative way. Okay, now on to the inside of my culture chest. So there are a couple very important things for me. The very first one is this. So this doesn't look like much to most people, but this does reflect several things for me. First of all, this is one disability, I guess I could say, I've always had. So I've really struggled with depression throughout my life. And this to me symbolizes kind of letting go of the difficulties that I've had and being able to kind of overcome that, but still face that every day. Some people may not see that as a disability, and to be honest, I don't know of many people who really know that I have struggled with this ever since I was a kid. But this is such a core part of who I am and the way I see the world, because I see it in a very different lens than a lot of people do. And so that's really affected the way that I see everything, and it's a core identity of who I am and this disability that I've had. But at times I do think it is kind of a blessing because there's a lot of things that I have learned from it. The other part, this deals with my ability. So I was able to be what's called a Sterling Scholar in my state in high school for different languages and cultures. And this was very important to me because, again, it shows that my abilities, that I work hard and I try to excel. But it also really affects the way I see the world because I have such high expectations for myself that often I kind of put that on others. And in a lot of ways, my position in social groups really depends on my abilities and the way that I feel like I can contribute. And so that is something that's really big to me and something that's seen by others, but there's a lot of perfectionism that comes with it that really affects the way that I see the world. This one right here is just to show, so this is something that's very obvious, but I am heterosexual. And I am married, and I do love that. But it's very important to me with my beliefs, and that does affect the way I see the world because there's a lot of different things that I really don't have to worry about or recognize, that could be a difficulty or could impede me in any way, because I have, the feelings that I have are towards males, and I know that is really a big part of who I am, but also something that really kind of elevates me in a lot of ways for a lot of people and position because it's seen as more normal, it's seen as more acceptable and more okay. And that can be very difficult for people who are homosexual or who have different ideas of that. And so that's why I included this in there because that is an essential part of who I am, but I also recognize the privilege that comes with it. So this next one here, so this is in Spanish. I also speak Spanish and I love it. And so that's a big part of who I am, but this is also another part of my religion. So this is music that we often sing in our religion, and it's very important to me. I believe that religion really changes everything about me. I believe in being daily religious and in following the different laws and commandments that I feel that we have, and I know that this really can change the way I see the world, and oftentimes people kind of disagree with the ideas that I have because of my deep religious ties, but this is just fundamental to who I am, to my worldview, and it does change my position in social groups. Where I currently live, it's very accepting of different religions, and so I am kind of in a more elevated status, and where I lived before it was the same way. At times I know it could be the opposite, but this is something that I don't often talk about it. It's not necessarily hidden, but it's very apparent once you get to know me and the way my house is and the way that I speak. It's all very tied to my religion and to my beliefs. The last one here is just about my gender. So this is an Arabic necklace that I got while I was living in the Middle East. And so this one is specifically about my gender. So I am a female, and while I was on the Middle East, there were a lot of difficulties that I faced being a female. And it kind of gave me this insight into, although sometimes here I don't recognize it as much, sometimes just the difficulties that being a female really brings. And it really has, ever since that time, has just really changed the way that I see my gender, and I see the kind of influences it has, and sometimes the fear that I have just being a female, being out. And I think that's really important because it does change the way that I see the world. I see it, a little bit more stressful. I see it a little bit more fearful than I did before after my experiences there. And also just the way that it affected my position in social groups. Often I couldn't really talk to males there without having another male with me because of the way that it was. And that's a kind of a a specific thing about the culture and something I've learned, but it really did change the way that I am and my ability to speak to people, and it's really kind of made me reflect on the experiences that I've had here.